Okay, so you've maybe been watching some of the lives that we've been doing where we've shown you some clients get a 3D analysis and you've seen the kind of full process of that, but what does it look like afterwards? So this is an example of what the report building element of the client then gets after this. So you can see on that left-hand side, there's a little skeleton that's been created, and that's actually the client's skeleton that we have pulled in from the infrared cameras. So I'll spin this round to show you what I mean in terms of the infrared cameras. Hold on a wee second. So if we just look over there. So at the back there, you can see there's cameras on the wall. So those are Vicon infrared cameras that we have. So you can all see that. Yeah. So there's 3 of them at the back, and then we have the treadmill here in front of this. And then what we then do, if you've watched any of our sessions, we put the client into a 3D environment. So if you see over here, this is the Vicon software. And these, the kind of 1, 2, 3, that's the cameras. You can see there's some little flickering going on there because I've got the lights on. Infrared does not like light. So we marker the patient's body up with lots of markers. So we use little joints. We have various different markers that we put all over the kind of angles of the particular patient. So if I show you, I'll just put this. This is one of the ones that we put on the SIS of the pelvis. So if you see me kind of waving this around, you might be able to see it flickering on that 3D environment. So basically, what we do is we create a model of the patient, and that's where that little running person comes from. So it's actually built from the 3D environment, from the infrared cameras, that then pulls in that patient's data and creates this. This was developed by a team down at Oxford University. The company's called Run3D, if you want to look them up. And it is the most accurate gait assessment that you can get outside of a research lab. There's no subjective analysis. We're measuring you fully in 3D. There's nothing else like it. So I just wanted to show you what the kind of back end of it looked like. So once a patient comes in, so the type of person that comes in, they might have back pain, hip pain, knee pain, a bit of pain in their body, and they just want to work out why they're getting that pain in the first place. So that's our job, to basically do a thorough assessment to see, right, well, why are they getting pain? It might be that somebody's maybe running a marathon, running a couch to 5K. It's maybe proactive training they're wanting help with, or maybe they're wanting to improve their speed, or whatever it is. Maybe they're wanting to compare one set of running shoes to another, or one orthotic to another. Maybe it's gait retraining. There's a multitude of reasons that patients come in and see us. But essentially, this is what it looks like for the patient when they're on. So they'll see themselves running up here. They'll see themselves on this over here. Because I don't have anybody markered up, you can't see it, but essentially it pulls them in and they can see their body markered out in 3D. This is the same tech that like Star Wars and stuff was used. It's the same cameras. Vicon's an American company based in, they're based in LA, but they've also got an office in Oxford in England as well. So it's the same tech that they use to make movies. So this is what it looks like once we've kind of captured that particular patient's running data. What we'd then do with that is we would export this to a report. So I'll show you, if I just pull up some reports to give you an idea of what a report would look like. So I'll pull up something that's not got anything sensitive on it that I can't legally show you. Hold on. Pull that over there for now. Right, so I'll pull this up. So when the patient's in, right, they've come in for a reason. They've come in, pain, something's going on, they need help. And they'll see this on one side, and then we'll then usually pull up the results. So here's a kind of example of what a report would look like. This is an actual report. You can't see any patient data from that. So we'll just let you have a wee look at what this looks like. So gait analysis. So what we've got here, cadence, step width, vertical excursion, overstride. So we can see cadence is basically just how fast, it'll tell us how fast that patient's walking or running. This particular patient was walking, and we can see they're walking quite quickly. The mean value down here is based on the data that Oxford Jury, the guys down at Run 3D collected, and our patients are compared against that comparison data. So we can see here immediately he's walking really fast. This particular patient's walking really fast, right? The mean is 113, he's 135. So there's something going on there. Step width, 197, and the mean is 141. So he's really wide. That immediately will tell us something around his hips. It's usually an indication of tightness through the hips, but we take that in a full kind of clinical presentation and what their history is. But certainly he's walking this particular patient too wide. Vertical excursion is how much you lift up. This particular patient is actually a low vertical excursion. You do want a low vertical excursion, but this is a particularly low. Overstride, right, there's 1 and the mean is 222, right? So high cadence and a tiny wee stride. So this particular patient is really walking like with tiny wee steps, right? Lots of tiny wee steps. Then come down, we've got the traffic light system. This was developed by Oxford Jury, and this was just to make it easy for the patients to be able to get the data easily to read. So we've got anterior pelvic tilt. We can see over here, we've got the left and the right side. So you can see they're way above, right? So a big, massive anterior pelvic tilt, this particular patient. That kind of pelvic motion, that side-to-side motion, we can see the left side is below, the right side is above. So in an ideal world, we want to see them close together. Hip extension at toe off, we can see both left and right side, really below average. Hip adduction, left side below, right side up. So really nice and easy for the patient to identify. But we essentially produce a big interpretation report, and they get a big rehab program with this as well. So some people love this. It gives them loads of information. Other patients have maybe been referred over from their physio or other healthcare provider, and we then just essentially do the movement analysis and then hand them back with this report to their healthcare professionals. So we do a lot of that, or they get the rehab with us. So there's a good mix there. So it gives them this traffic light system of where they sit within the mean, and it starts to build up a picture of why they're getting maybe an overuse injury or a particular pain output. This is really what as the clinician we'll look at. So we've got this graph, so to speak, where we're looking at the pelvic motion here. Left side is the triangle, the red dot is the right side, so left side, right side. We've got pelvic tilt down here, so we've got the sagittal plane, pelvic obliquity, we've got the frontal plane, and then our pelvic rotation, our transverse plane. And we can see at a very quick glance where the big hitters are. So we can see immediately here that we've got some discrepancy between the left and the right side, and we can also see within that rotation. So that's really where the eyes are drawn to, but also we need to take into account that there's this very high anterior pelvic tilt, which will usually indicate that there's a very low hip extension, which I know in this particular patient, hip extension, look at that, it's down at the bottom, it can't get any further. So there's clearly some stuff going on with the hips with that particular patient. This particular patient actually came in with lower back pain. This isn't an unusual presentation given that. So we can see immediately the issues aren't just at the lower back. We can see immediately right about that hip where we need to focus our attention. We know that the lower back, how it's sitting when that particular patient is moving, what it's doing. And because we know that, it means that we can then do something about it. We can then start to build out rehabilitation for that particular patient. You can see what the knee is doing, okay? And this particular patient was getting some grumbles with their knee, but it wasn't anything, it wasn't the main area. The lower back was the main area, but we can see how they are loading the knees and then down to the foot and ankle. And we can see why, as podiatrists, we spend 4 years just looking at the foot and ankle. Well, not just looking at the foot and ankle, but we spend a lot of time really getting to know this area. It's a complex area, and we can see all of these little markers. So this just builds up a big picture based on what issues that patient's had, and it helps us with one, diagnosis, and two, then what do we then do about it. So for those of us that love stats, so for me, looking at this, so I can look at pelvic tilt, I can look at the patient's left side, the patient's right side, and then I can compare that against what the controls are. So for example, that patient's left side anterior, he's got a massive anterior pelvic tilt. His tilt is sitting at 19.5, and the mean is 0.8. So he's off the charts with how his pelvis is sitting. Now that in itself, we wouldn't necessarily do anything with that specifically unless there was a reason to do it. But this particular patient is experiencing primarily come into see us because of lower back pain. So we know based on these results now that the issue isn't just the lower back. Actually, this particular patient needs a lot of help in the hip area, but actually a pile of work is also getting done for this particular patient down at the foot and ankle as well. So it turns something where you've got an analysis that could be quite a subjective analysis. So if I just turn this around so you can see me. So ordinarily as clinicians, and I'll bring this around so I'm in the light, when we're analysing our patients, a lot of our analysis can be a subjective analysis, meaning we are maybe watching them walking on the treadmill, or we are filming them. We might be using an app or software. That's quite common for a lot of healthcare professionals or other people working in health, where they'll download an app and it can slow motion down, so they'll be pausing the camera. The difficulty with those kind of things is that they're not accurate. You're unable to accurately analyse in 3 planes in that way. It's just, you kind of look at all those different joints at the same time and analyse in frontal, sagittal and transverse planes. That means you'd need to be some sort of, it just isn't possible. There's just no way you can do that. So what our gait analysis system does is it takes something where it's a subjective, it looks like that, or it looks like you're doing that, takes all that guesswork away and actually gives you accurate, this is exactly what your body's doing. And with that, you've then got choices, you've then got power, you know what's going on. So whether you've got somebody, like I said, that particular patient that I showed you, it was chronic back pain, really chronic lower back pain, and they were at the end of their tether, nothing was working. But it was nothing working because they were focusing on the wrong area, where they're just focusing on the site of pain, where the last people he was seeing just focusing on his lower back and not taking into consideration what the rest of his body was doing. Unfortunately, that particular patient, that was the case. And he was just told, you just strengthen your core up and mobilise your back. But there was no consideration of the hips, how his hips were moving, what his feet were doing, and how that was having an impact on his overall motion and movement. So knowledge is power, and it helps you get the right rehabilitation and the right help. So without that, it is guesswork. Now, for the vast majority of the public, that's fine. If you're quite happy, just, I just need a general idea, I don't mind doing loads and loads and loads of exercises, and some of them will be the right ones to do, then fine. But if you're getting a particular pain output, it could be anywhere in your body. And what you'll generally find is that where you get pain isn't where the problem sits. Pain is an output of your body telling you that you've loaded that particular area. Usually you've overloaded it, you've done something to it, it's not liked it, it's not been strong enough, or it's been worn out, or something's happened, or there's been trauma to it. But it's usually not the overall root cause of the problem. That's not always the case, but in a lot of situations it is, especially when it comes to knees and or lower backs. Usually the problem is somewhere else, and that tissue's been loaded a particular way as a result of it. We are very good, especially as I'm an MSK podiatrist, at being able to offload tissues, to use physics to our advantage and work out how we can change forces or move forces or offload tissues, whatever way you want to think about it. One, to get you out of pain immediately. So if you add in like acute pain or like something like, oh my goodness, I just want to be able to ambulate and not be in agony, we're very good at getting you out of pain. Then finding out, right, well, why is this happened in the first place? Let's do something about it. Rehab, proper rehab for that area, but not just looking at that site of pain, looking at that body as a whole and how you ambulate. So if you are in pain, definitely do reach out. But also, say you're wanting to do a 5K and you've never ran before and you're a wee bit concerned about, you don't want to get injuries, then it's ideal for that. It's almost like you're preempting, right? Like, where am I weak? Where do I need to strengthen up? It's fantastic for that. When you come in for an analysis with us, we're not just looking at your gait, but we also, if I grab some of the MSK stuff, do a full musculoskeletal assessment. What does that mean? Musculoskeletal assessment, we were looking at your strength. We're doing strength testing, so we use to test. So we'd literally have you resisting against us to actually measure the force that you're able to apply. We would use our goniometers to actually measure your joint angles to make sure we know, for example, for you to be able to activate the windlass mechanism, so in your feet, and we know that how the body ideally should function. We know that we need to have about 65 degrees of dorsiflexion at your big toe. We're not going to just guess that you've got that, we're actually going to measure. We know that to ambulate properly through your ankle, that you need at least 15 degrees of dorsiflexion through your ankle joint. And if you don't have these kind of things, then something else has to pick up the slack. So by getting that data, by gathering that, it helps us rule out and then work out what to then do about it. We also measure how flexible you are. So yep, we literally put measurements on it. We will measure your leg length discrepancy. We have all our tape measures and stuff. We will measure your strength. We'll measure your flexibility. We will measure your range of motion. So we don't just guess that, oh yeah, that feels okay. We literally put a number on it. So it's at that research standard. As I said, this was developed by Run3D, a spin-out company out of Oxford University. It is at the standard that it is gold standard at that research hospital, university hospital type level. So it's the first time this has really been available to the general public. You haven't really had this sort of in-depth, thorough analysis available to you. It is new. It is pretty new. Now, in terms of booking, you've got a couple of choices. You can choose to just book a gait analysis, if that's absolutely fine. We can also do things like gait retraining. So the first thing you would do is you would do a gait analysis. So say, for example, you're running a marathon and you're maybe getting to the 10-mile mark and your Achilles is feeling a bit funky, or your knee's feeling a bit funky, or you're hitting a wall. Then we can help you through that, provide rehabilitation, but also help with gait retraining. So we can take you to that kind of point where you're getting your fatigue, do your fatigue training, and then work on, right, what is it we need to change? Until we've analysed you, we won't know. So is it your stride length? Is it your cadence? Is it your speed? Is it what your feet are doing? Is it what your hips are doing? Is it strength somewhere? Are your hips, you're not getting enough extension? Have you got too much extension? Is your lower back? What is it we're going? And then we can real time actually get you linked up to the system and do gait retraining with you. So it's great for that. It's also fab for comparison of trainers. So say you were like, I don't know which, do I want to go for a stability? Do I want to go for, something more neutral? Or do I want to wear that orthotic? Is that orthotic working? We can real time actually get you running and seeing real time how that's affecting all of your mechanics, where the forces are then going, and give you an accurate this is the best one for you, or this is not, or that orthotic's doing what it needs to do for you, or it's not. So it's really, really great for giving you that real-time feedback and how that changes the forces going through your joints. And also posture. So some people will come in, they'll get the gait and posture, so they'll want us to do a posture analysis as well, so looking at their overall posture as well as their gait and as well as their MSK. It just depends. I've put the link to further information. If you're in pain, or if you've got an injury, or if you're running and you're getting niggles, basically anybody who walks, so you don't need to be a runner to do this. If you're maybe a hill walker as well, and you're getting wee tweaks, maybe it's your lower back, maybe it's your hips, maybe it's your knees, and you want some answers because you want to know, well, why is that happening? Then this is the most accurate assessment that you could get. When you come in and get this, you get the assessment, it takes about an hour and a half. It's a really thorough assessment. From there, we then analyse that even further. You get a full report of your findings that we can help you with that in-house, or we can pass that on to maybe you're working with a physio already, or maybe you've got a coach or a personal trainer. We actually work with great personal trainer Gary Goldie, works out the Western Baths. And he'll send a lot of his patients or his clients over that he's working with, and we help. So he'll basically be given, here are the issues, here are the key exercises, here are the key muscle groups, here are the key areas that your client needs to work on. He's then got that information where he can absolutely do the rehab for his clients and get them ready for whatever event or whatever race they're doing. So we do that, that's absolutely normal. Or we can do it in-house. So if you're wanting, say you've got a particular injury and you want us to coach you all the way through that, we can absolutely do that too. So whether you're working with a physio or whether you are a physio or whether you are a healthcare provider, we are more than happy to work on a referral basis where you can refer your patients in, and we would absolutely refer them back over to you with that full report of findings with your patient's permission. So you've got that data, you've got that absolute thorough assessment there. It's kind of like sending your patient for a movement MRI so that you can see exactly what's going on, so you can then best help them. So that's something we do quite a lot as well. I've put the details with this video, depending on where you're watching this right now. So pop on and have a wee look on the website and see what works for you. But you get everything you need in terms of your full report of findings, understanding what's going on. We will also provide you with an at-home rehabilitation programme as standard that will happen. Or we can also then send that to your other healthcare provider or personal trainer, whoever you're working with, so that they can coach you through that if that's what you prefer. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. And yeah, happy running, happy walking, and stay injury free.